transforming the ATC on the global market of air traffic control into a digital world of airport operation. And as I said earlier, you will find bits and pieces of the other speakers in this, because it's the entrepreneurship that we here in Sweden is quite good on technology, but it's not only technology. We have to transform it, change management, business transformation. That's the key part. Even though that I represent the technology provider, we have seen that this is so important to make this bridge into this new. And that's why we have formed this new joint venture between the Swedish LFV and SAAB in order to take this to the next level. So a little bit of the history of aviation. Everybody thinks aviation is in the peak of evolution of technology. I have a background as an engineer and a pilot flying for Scandinavian Airlines for several years, and I can say that's not the case. You are in the peak. We have to learn from you. That's our challenge, to bring your ideas into this world, because you will see there's a huge gap in this. And I had another slide before this, but this animation is not the best part of my work. And it was actually a bonfire. That was the first communication, navigation, and surveillance tool that Mr. Lindbergh in the US recognized that he was working or flying for US mail, and they had to deliver the parcels and so on even in the nighttime. So when they fired up the bonfire, that was navigation from Mr. Lindbergh, and it was surveillance when he passed, and it was a communication tool from the ground side. We are here. That is actually one of the few of the technology that is literally closed down. The next part was actually during the Second World War that we had the possibility to introduce radar, and suddenly we could fly in low visibility, but still exactly the same business models, the same procedures as we have today. However, it's become more complex, and you are all travelers in this room, and you know that there are a lot of delays in different areas of the globe and so on. But it's exactly the same operation that we have had the last 70 years. 70 years, that's amazing. I often refer this transition, what we are doing now for introducing digital environment in this part of the industry, from the telecom industry. The telecom industry had the same business models since 120 years. And suddenly, a lot of you are working with these devices, the smartphones, and suddenly everybody has to have it. And suddenly we create a new business model, apps, services. That will be exactly the same in our industry, because we're talking about innovation. And I think the interesting part is the industry that has these old stovepipes, the old business model. That's where we're going to focus and make changes. And this is one part of it. So what we have done, we have a monopoly for a good view, or the control in the tower. That has been a symbol for the last 70 years. And what they are doing is actually have a good view in top of this fantastic building. And there are parts of the world that when you're doing a new airport, you have to have at least 20 meters higher than a neighboring airport or the neighboring country. So they're becoming more higher and higher. They are so high now that we have at certain parts of the world that they are in cloud, so they can't see. It's crazy. I'm always saying that you have to dig them down in the ground, so we have the exactly same operation day out and day in. What they are doing is actually to look through the window, either with the human eye or binocular. That's the standard since 70 years. All the operation at Heathrow, Charles de Gaulle, Dubai, its man in the tower has exactly the same view. What we have done, instead of having the human eye, we have replaced that human eye into video technology, cameras. And suddenly we have a digital format, and that can be distributed to whoever needs that kind of information. In our case, we distribute it down to the controller working position. And that we have 14 fixed cameras in order to capture a 360 degrees view. And then we have 14 screens where we present this. So we were the first in the world here in Sweden to have it operational approved, and actually the first in the world to test it. And I will come to that later on, that it's actually Sweden now that's pushing this new evolution of air traffic control and airport digitalization. And In the beginning, the operator was really afraid of this, of course. So we had to work with them very, very hard, and they're part of the program. Even the Swedish controller unit is part of this in order to get a solid foundation for the future. So they have a responsibility to safeguard the future operation in this kind of environment. So instead of sitting up in this fantastic tower, they have now become part of a centralized operation. So this is a picture of the center in Sweden. That's the first in the world. And it's situated up in Sundsvall. And you can see two parts of the screens here. On the left side, that was the first operational system in the world. And that's Örnsköldsvik. And on the right side, that's the Sundsvall. And now we're expanding to Linköping. There are some more airports to be connected. And at this center, this is at Sundsvall, 45 minutes flight from Stockholm. And that has been visited now from people all over the world. We have last week the number 2,575 visitors from all over the globe. And to try to explain or say Örnsköldsvik to a Chinese, that's quite awesome. And even the mayor at this location, he has started to think if we can combine the tourists to see this with moose hunting or safaris in the woods. So they're really, really positive to this. I saw the next speaker will talk about drones. We're using this infrastructure as well to other applications. And in this case, we are tracking everything because any movement of 4 pixels in the camera, we can detect and then we can target them. And in this case, we just click on this object and that's a drone. And then we can identify with a pan tilt zoom camera. Drones are fantastic, but in the vicinity of an airport, it's a disaster. They have to close down everything, aircraft on ground, customers, passengers, everybody's delayed. So that's another example that if you have this digitalization of the infrastructure, suddenly we can do more and more of applications or services. Coming back to this, we don't know the next part of this. We have a long, long list of what we can do for security reasons and so on. But what we aimed already in 2011, we have to make it operation approved towards today's rules and regulation. And these kind of sensors are not according to those rules. So a little bit back on the business model, that we have today a business model that we have a lot of regional towers and so forth. And all our customers working this, they try to squeeze out everything in each of these towers. It's like a cylinder of information and application. But you can't do anything more. You have to take the next step. And the digitalization is a key element in order to safeguard this for the future. For a lot of these regional airports, is very, very close to close down the airport because it's so costly to have them operated. And this will be a perfect solution where we have big countries like Australia, Africa, and so on, and to still have these kind of transportation. And what we are doing is actually to create a centralization of the whole operation. And then you can connect different airports around the world. We also have already now started that one controller can actually control multiple airports at the same time. And then we become even more efficient. We're not talking about large airport, but smaller regional airport that might have 10 or 15 flights per day. We can do that. But then it's more of a human factor aspect that we have to take account. But absolutely it's feasible. We hope to have it operation approved here in Sweden once again for the first time in the world next year. This has been the interesting part the last year, I would say, because we have proved that the technology is not an issue. We have solved all the different environmental protections and so on. And of course, the first question I always get is it safe? I would say it's safer than today's operation because we can add on so many new safety nets that is not possible just to have the human eye looking out through the window. And we have all the redundancy that we have in place and so on. And I'm very proud that we here in Sweden has challenged the old system. And we have our authority, the regulator is the Swedish Transportstyrelsen. And in 2013, we started this operational approval process. And now, 2015, we had a stock of more than 2 meters of documentation. So we've gone through all the different safety regulation in order to get the approval. And that, I think, it's one of the most important part for us, that we have this tick in the box. But after that is the change management and business transformation. I mean, to build a tower today, it's costly. It's very, very costly. This is a tenth of a cost in order to produce a new tower. A tower for a large airport, it goes from 100 to 300 million Swedish crowns. And that's just the concrete side. That's not the technology itself. As I said earlier, we can do more of a safety enhancements. We can introduce new business model. We have one airport here in Sweden that is now building, or actually it's a greenfield now, but they will build it later on this year. They will build the first airport without a tower. We're going to provide a full service. So suddenly we can offer a business model that I just would like to have 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon. That has never been possible before. So suddenly we are using the technology by driving the business side. And now the business side is more important and to be understandable by our global customer. That has taken a long, long journey. We have worked with this since 2006. Now it starts to pick up. We had our global event in Madrid last week, and for 3 days. In our SAAB stand, it was a queue for 3 days. People didn't come into our stand because they would like to talk about this. And that was from all over the world. I talked about this earlier, that we are the first in the world. And that's something I'm very proud that not only Ericsson with the mobile telephone, we have SAAB now to introduce something completely different in the global market. We are not only working here in Sweden, as I said. We had the last autumn, we have installed in Ireland. Cork and Shannon was run from a center created in Dublin Airport with very good result. We have in US, Leesburg, outside Washington, D.C., working with the US authority to have it approved there as well. The Netherlands, we have in Schiphol, the large airport there, we have a smaller solution there for one of the runways that is more or less very close to the Belgian border. We have in Sweden, as I said, we also finished a trial in 2014 in Australia with exactly the same system. And we had Alice Springs in the center of Australia, run from Adelaide. And that's a distance of 1,500 kilometers, just to prove that it's okay. Distance is not a problem. It's the connectivity that we talked about earlier. So suddenly we have a business model that we from Sweden, we can run airports in Germany, France, whatever. So suddenly we are shifting the whole business part into something completely new that we don't really actually know what will it be to tomorrow. This is a slide as well that we talked about earlier to connect different applications. And I think this with digitalization will absolutely be in the forefront for the future. And we have a lot of discussion also with the larger airport regarding this transformation. And I had a discussion with Derek Provan, that is head of London Heathrow last week. And they are fully commitment to this kind of solution. Even though that they will build this new third runway at London Heathrow, they will never build a concrete mortar tower anymore. They will definitely go to this. So that was a very brief of what we are doing regarding digitalization of airports and ATC.
Wonderful, Per. What an astonishing...